Taleka Patrick. On November 6, 2013, a video quietly appeared on an obscure YouTube channel called Sandra 3000 KC. It was made by a 30-year-old woman named Taleka Patrick, a soft-spoken medical resident from Michigan. The clip lasted less than a minute.
It's Taleka.
And it was never meant for the world to see. Just one person, someone she called her lover. A heartfelt message meant to bridge a growing distance between them.
I got dressed up for you. And I bought flowers. Look. Flowers.
But the message was never received. The only person who ever watched it was Taleka herself. 4 days later, on November 10th, she posted a second video.
If you were here, this is what it would be your plate.
Another emotional monologue. Another dedication to the same unnamed man. It too went unnoticed, slipping into the void of YouTube's algorithm and fading into the digital ether. But these forgotten videos wouldn't stay forgotten for long, because just weeks later, Taleka Patrick would vanish without a trace, and those cryptic emotional uploads would suddenly take center stage, becoming key evidence in what would become one of the internet's strangest and most unsettling mysteries. It all started on December 5th, 2013, a normal Thursday in Kalamazoo. Taleka spent the day working at the Borges Medical Center, where she was finishing her first year as a medical resident. Her co-workers described her as brilliant, focused, and fun to be around. She had a bright future, the kind you could see from a mile away. But that day, something felt off. When her shift ended, she asked a colleague for a ride to a local hotel, the Radisson, just a few miles from the hospital. The request seemed rushed, panicked almost. The co-worker agreed, concerned. When they arrived, security footage shows Taleka trying to rent a room, but being turned away. She'd left her wallet back at work and didn't have proper ID. At the front desk, employees noticed her behavior. She looked anxious, distracted. A receptionist gently asked if she was okay, but Taleka brushed it off, said she was fine. Moments later, she exited the building and stepped into the hotel's complimentary shuttle. She told the driver she needed to return to Borges to grab her wallet. But as the van pulled into the hospital parking lot, Taleka hesitated. She turned to the driver and said something strange. "I can't go back there with you." Then, without warning, she jumped out and took off, ducking between parked cars like she was hiding from someone. The driver watched her climb into her own car, a 1997 Lexus, and speed away into the night. He would be the last person to ever speak to her. What happened next felt like something out of a thriller. Taleka started driving erratically, swerving between cars at dangerously high speeds, almost like she was being chased. Other drivers on the road noticed and called the police, but before help could arrive, her front left tire blew out. The car veered off the highway and into a ditch, 100 miles from Kalamazoo. She stepped out of the vehicle, took her keys, and vanished.
911 is the exact location of your emergency. Just turn it now.
It's on I-94, the westbound lane. There's a car off the road down in the ditch.
Minutes later, police found her car abandoned on the side of the road. Inside were her personal belongings, phone, wallet, cash, but no sign of Taleka. Officers combed the area. They searched the woods, the shoreline of a nearby lake. Nothing. On December 6th, she was officially declared missing. Everyone who'd interacted with her that night said the same thing. She seemed scared, paranoid, like she was running from something no one else could see. Some suspected foul play. That someone had followed her, hunted her. Police brought in dogs to track her scent, and the results were chilling. The dogs followed her trail from the car to the side of the road, then stopped, as if someone had picked her up, voluntarily or not. To make things even more unsettling, investigators uncovered a strange phone call Taleka had made the night before she vanished. She'd phoned a man named James Davis, a gospel singer living in St. Louis. She told him she feared someone was trying to kill her, and that she was planning to leave Kalamazoo to come see him. That call was one of her final known communications, and it seemed to confirm what many feared, that she had been running, that her fears may have been real. The case exploded online. Missing posters, news reports, Reddit threads. Everyone wanted to know what had happened to the promising young doctor. But with no solid leads, the trail went cold. Except on the internet, a new trail had just begun. While digging into Taleka's online activity, investigators made a strange discovery. A YouTube channel under the name Sandra 3000KC. It had 9 videos, all uploaded in early November, just 1 month before her disappearance. The most infamous of them was titled, My Awesome Day. In the video, Taleka sits alone in front of a camera, speaking tenderly to someone she calls Baby.
Hi, baby. Good night. It's Taleka. I am just coming to you to say hi and just to tell you about my day.
At one point, she pauses, touches her chest, and says,
Baby, I felt that.
Later she breaks into song, not once but several times, the kind of spontaneous singing that lasts almost the entire video.
And now I'm home, finally. Yes. Putting up a little bit of fight, it's alright.
Each upload follows a similar pattern. Long, emotional, and unscripted. They read like love letters. Intimate monologues directed at someone who never responded. Someone who might not have even known they existed. In one video, she hints at relationship troubles. Says she's unsure where they stand.
I don't know what's going on, in your life and stuff. We have an idea, but I don't know everything.
But still holds on to hope. She reassures him, whoever he is, that she's still deeply in love.
You do your best, and I do my best, and we give each other a chance.
She even films herself cooking elaborate meals, enough for 2 people, sets the table, smiles at the empty chair across from her, a dinner for someone who wasn't there, a love story that might have only existed in her mind. Or maybe not. As investigators combed through Taleka's videos, certain moments began to stand out. Moments that suggested this wasn't just a fantasy relationship. It seemed real. In one clip, she gestures toward a bouquet of flowers, smiling as she hints that they were given to her by him.
Here are all my raw materials. I don't even eat chicken. I'm vegetarian, but I want that for you. That's just potatoes so far. If you were here, this is what would be your plate. Broccoli and tomatoes and peppers and cheese.
She doesn't name him, never does, but the implication is there. This is from when we went out, she says softly.
And here are the flowers from last time.
If true, it meant they'd seen each other recently, possibly even gone on a date in the days before the video was filmed. Taken as a whole, the videos don't initially feel disturbing. Strange? Yes, but more in the way that unfiltered love can be, raw and vulnerable. They showed a woman deeply in love, maybe going through a rough patch, maybe just stuck in a long-distance relationship. But they weren't threatening. They weren't cause for alarm, at least not until investigators started asking questions. When they spoke to Taleka's family and friends, a glaring red flag emerged. According to everyone who knew her, Taleka wasn't in a relationship at all.
Patrick's family issued this statement in response to the new video. To our knowledge, Taleka was not in a romantic relationship, and it's unclear to whom she is making reference in this video.
She was open, warm, talkative. the kind of person who shared her life with those around her. And yet, no one had ever heard her mention a boyfriend, which left investigators with a chilling question. If she was truly single, then who were these videos for?
Bye. I love you.
Who was this baby she kept talking to? And if they had met in person, like she claimed, how had no one known? As they reviewed the footage again and looked back at the way she had driven that night, as if she were running from something, a dark theory began to form. What if this wasn't just unrequited love? What if Teleka had gotten involved in something secret, something dangerous, and it had all gone wrong? The idea was chilling, but it wasn't implausible. And so, detectives kept digging, combing through every corner of her digital footprint, looking for the man she had been so devoted to. What they found next changed everything.
Yet another twist in the mystery of the missing Kalamazoo doctor.
Target 8 uncovered hundreds of tweets allegedly posted by Teleka Patrick in the weeks before she went missing.
Investigators had uncovered 5 Twitter accounts, all belonging to Teleka, each filled with thousands of tweets. And they were unlike anything anyone had expected. The posts were chaotic, rambling, often incoherent. It was like reading someone's unfiltered stream of consciousness posted live to the internet. In many tweets, she seemed to be speaking to no one, asking things like, "Hi my friend, how are you?" or "Just woke up, sorry," but tagging no one, receiving no replies. The deeper investigators scrolled, the stranger things became. Just like in her YouTube videos, Teleka spent a lot of time referencing her mystery man. "I felt you a little bit yesterday. Hope you have a wonderful day. Love you." But unlike the videos, these tweets weren't just occasional. They were constant. Hundreds of them. Sometimes dozens in a day. When she didn't receive a response, she'd create a new account and keep going. Should I start another page? Let me know when you find her. Did you find me? I've been messaging you for 2 days from another Twitter account. It was obsessive, desperate, and growing darker by the day. And then, buried deep in the flood of tweets, a name started appearing. One of the only names she mentioned consistently. Marvin Sapp, a Grammy-nominated gospel singer, a well-known figure in the Christian music world, and according to Teleka, her soulmate. She tweeted at him repeatedly, "Marvin Sapp, good morning. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Marvin Sapp, don't be sad. God never puts more on us than we can bear." All 3 messages were posted within 24 hours, and they weren't isolated. There were hundreds more. Sometimes she quoted his lyrics. Other times, she claimed the two shared a divine connection. Her posts were filled with longing and delusion. One tweet read, "I have relocated to be with you, so I really hope you want me, so we can be in love and get married and have a couple babies." Another, "As you may or may not know, I attempted to visit you yesterday." The evidence was disturbing. It painted a new picture, one where Teleka's relationship may have never existed outside her own mind. But here's the twist. Marvin Sapp did know who she was, not because of any romantic connection, but because she'd been harassing him for months. It started in early 2013. She began tweeting at him, cryptically at first, claiming they were spiritually married. When that didn't get a response, she reached out to his children. Her behavior grew increasingly erratic and increasingly alarming. Eventually, she packed up her life in California and moved across the country to Kalamazoo, where Marvin Sapp lived, where his church was, where she showed up at his house in the middle of the night. Sapp filed for a restraining order, cited more than 400 pages of unwanted messages. She was banned from his church, told to stay away, but she didn't. Instead, she slipped deeper into delusion. She believed Marvin Sapp was still with her, telepathically, that they were connected, that their love was real. By December, her tweets had taken a dark spiritual turn. She began writing about demons. On December 4th, she posted, "You reach me through a demonic portal that gives demons power over me and dilutes my spiritual authority. Please understand. I must protect myself spiritually." That was one of the last things Taleka Patrick ever wrote. The very next day, she began systematically erasing her digital footprint, deleting tweets, wiping her accounts clean, and then she vanished alongside a cold Michigan roadside. The discovery of her Twitter accounts added a new, unsettling layer to the case. And for many, it pointed to one unavoidable truth. At the time of her disappearance, Taleka was likely in the middle of a severe psychotic break. But that still left one pressing question unanswered. What actually happened to her that night? 3 theories would begin to circulate. The first, that she'd run into the woods, fleeing someone, or something, that wasn't really there. That her fear, though deeply real to her, was only a symptom of her delusions, and that she had ultimately succumbed to hypothermia. After all, Michigan winters are merciless. The second theory was more optimistic, that she had simply decided to walk away, that she left her belongings behind, flagged down a passing car, and started a new life somewhere far away. A clean slate. And the third, the darkest of all, was that she had been followed. That someone was waiting for her that night. And when she pulled over, they seized the opportunity. After all, that's exactly where police dogs had lost her trail.
Later, a bloodhound tracked her scent directly from the car to the side of the road, and from there, the trail goes cold.
Some even speculated about the man she'd been so fixated on, Marvin Sapp. By now, he knew about her behavior. He was concerned, protective of his family. It wasn't hard for some to imagine a scenario where he might have taken matters into his own hands, or that someone close to him had. Others whispered about a secret affair, a real relationship gone bad, one that could have jeopardized his career if it ever went public. And Taleka, spiraling, could have threatened to expose it. It was a motive. And with his fame, he certainly had the resources. But this theory never gained ground. Police were firm. Marvin Sapp was never a suspect.
The pastor is nothing more than an innocent victim of an apparent stalking.
They believed he was a victim of stalking, nothing more. There was one other man people wondered about, Taleka's ex-husband, Ismael Calderon. The two had been married for 4 years before divorcing in 2011. After their split, Taleka had accused him of emotional and verbal abuse on an online forum, which led some to wonder whether he might have tried to silence her. But like Sapp, Calderon was never named a suspect. Investigators found no evidence of involvement. In fact, the only person police seriously looked into was James Davis, the friend she had called the night before her disappearance. He was the last person to speak with her, the one she told, "Someone's trying to kill me." But Davis lived hours away in St. Louis, and after a thorough investigation, he was cleared of any wrongdoing. He was just a concerned friend. And so, no suspects, no body, no solid clues. Speculation was all anyone had, at least until April 3rd, 2014.
First tonight, the developments continue to come in about a body found in a small Indiana lake.
This was not the answer anyone wanted. Investigators are certain the body found in an Indiana lake is that of Taleka Patrick.
It wasn't the outcome anyone hoped for, but it was an answer. Nearly 3 months after she vanished, a fisherman spotted something floating in the water at Lake Charles, not far from where Taleka's car had been abandoned. An autopsy confirmed the body was hers. The cause of death: drowning. No bruises, no wounds, no signs of trauma. Investigators pieced together a theory that Taleka, suffering from a manic episode, had believed she was being hunted. That when her tire blew, she panicked, truly believing someone was coming for her. So she ran. In the darkness, without a flashlight, she may have accidentally sprinted straight into Lake Charles. The water that night was near freezing. Hypothermia could have set in almost instantly, and as temperatures dropped, the surface froze over, hiding her body in ice. By the time search teams combed the area, she was already beneath the surface, entombed in the lake just a few hundred feet from her car. Her online videos and tweets, once considered evidence of foul play, were now seen as signs of a mind in crisis. Law enforcement ultimately concluded that the case was not a criminal one, but a mental health tragedy, that her death was a tragic accident brought on by untreated illness. But not everyone accepted that answer. Telika's family raised troubling questions, like the fact that her scent trail, the one followed by the police dogs, didn't lead toward the lake, but away from it, directly to the road, the opposite direction. And then there was the lake itself, Lake Charles, small, shallow, so unremarkable that it doesn't even appear on Google Maps. It had been searched multiple times, once the night she vanished, twice again with sonar. Each time, authorities found nothing, which raised an uncomfortable possibility. Had her body been there all along, or had it been placed there later? Some believed she'd been taken elsewhere, and her body dumped later, staged to look like an accident. And then there was the hardest question of all. What had triggered her breakdown in the first place? Something must have happened. Some catalyst, a threat, a message, a confrontation. But according to everyone who saw her that day, nothing unusual had occurred. Her phone revealed no clues either. No calls, no texts. Nothing that might have sparked her final spiral. The family, unconvinced by the initial autopsy, requested a second. That exam confirmed the cause of death as drowning, finding water in her nasal cavity, consistent with inhalation prior to death. With that, the case was officially closed. One investigator put it simply, "I do believe it's probably as solved as it's going to get." And yet, so many questions remain. Sunset Cruise. In late May of 2023, what was supposed to be a celebration turned into a tragedy that would soon be dissected across the internet. Cameron Robbins, an 18-year-old recent high school graduate from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, was taking part in a graduation cruise through the Bahamas, alongside hundreds of other students. It was meant to be a final, carefree trip before adulthood truly began. On the night of May 24th, at around 9:30 p.m., Cameron was aboard a small party vessel called Blackbeard's Revenge, cruising near Athol Island, an uninhabited area just northwest of Nassau. Alcohol was readily available on board, and since the legal drinking age in the Bahamas is 18, many of the graduates, Cameron included, had been drinking heavily throughout the evening. The atmosphere was loud, chaotic, and fueled by celebration. At some point during the cruise, someone dared Cameron to jump off the ship into the dark ocean below. Whether it was peer pressure, intoxication, or a split-second lapse in judgment, Cameron accepted almost immediately. Seconds later, he climbed over the railing and leapt into the water. A friend captured the moment on Snapchat.
Yo! This kid jumped off! Oh my God! Oh, bye-bye! Oh, grab the buoy! Hey, the buoy!
That brief clip would become the last known recording of Cameron Robbins alive. The crew reacted as quickly as possible, bringing the ship to a stop and throwing a life preserver into the water. The Coast Guard was alerted, and a large-scale search operation began shortly after. Over the next 2 days, authorities combed more than 325 square miles of ocean. Despite the extensive effort, Cameron was never found. As the footage circulated online, theories began to emerge. One of the most widely debated was the possibility of a shark encounter. Viewers noticed what appeared to be a large shape moving through the water toward Cameron shortly after he surfaced. Moments later, Cameron can be seen swimming away from the nearby life preserver, seemingly in the opposite direction. To some, It looked as if he had noticed something in the water and was trying to escape it. The theory gained traction for several reasons. The Bahamas has a well-established shark population, and nighttime is when many species are most active. Additionally, vessels like party cruises often discard food waste, which can attract marine life and condition animals to associate boats with food. Under those circumstances, it's not impossible that a shark may have approached Cameron after he entered the water. However, the evidence is far from conclusive. The video itself is low resolution and heavily distorted by darkness, distance, and reflections from the ship's lights. What some interpret as a shark could just as easily be a wave, a shadow, or light refracting off the water's surface. Cameron's movement away from the life preserver can also be explained by severe intoxication, panic, or disorientation after hitting the water from height. There is also the geographical factor. While sharks are present in the Bahamas, studies show that their numbers around Atoll Island specifically are relatively low, reducing the likelihood of an encounter in that exact location. A more widely accepted explanation focuses on environmental and physical factors. Even in warm waters, prolonged nighttime exposure can lead to hypothermia, especially when combined with panic and exhaustion. Jumping from a moving vessel, entering dark open water, and attempting to stay afloat while intoxicated would place enormous strain on the body. Disorientation, strong currents, and psychological terror can overwhelm even strong swimmers in minutes. Cameron's swimming pattern in the footage appears erratic, a sign consistent with confusion and rapid fatigue. Ultimately, the exact cause of Cameron Robbins' death remains unknown. Whether it was exhaustion, drowning, hypothermia, or a rare marine encounter, no definitive conclusion can be proven without physical evidence. What remains undeniable is the sudden loss of a young life and the haunting uncertainty left behind, a tragedy that continues to be analyzed frame by frame long after the ocean closed over him. A forever mystery. On August 8, 2013, the night a man named Brandon Lawson vanished under circumstances that continue to puzzle both investigators and the public to this day. It all began after Brandon got into a heated argument with his longtime girlfriend, Ladessa Lofton, and feeling the need for space and a chance to cool off, he decided to leave the house and called his father to ask if he could drive 3 hours to stay the night at his place. Something his father tried to talk him out of, given how late it was. But Brandon, determined to get away, set off from his San Angelo home at 11:54 p.m., heading toward Crowley, Texas. Roughly 40 miles into the drive, his car ran out of gas, and he was forced to pull over along a desolate stretch of Highway 277 near Bronte, Texas, after which he phoned his brother Kyle for help. When Kyle arrived shortly after, Brandon was no longer at the scene, and despite searching the area thoroughly, there was no trace of him anywhere. It wasn't until the next day that the family discovered something chilling. Just moments after speaking with Kyle, Brandon had placed a 911 call, one that would later become central to one of the most disturbing missing persons cases in recent memory. In that call, which you can hear now.
9/2013 0:50 and 38 seconds.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. Got chasing to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
I'm not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? 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 Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance? Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance? Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance? Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Brandon sounds panicked, disoriented, and clearly afraid, making fragmented statements that seem to suggest he is being chased or watched, saying things like, "Yes, I'm in the middle of a field," and "There's guys chasing me," with the call cutting in and out and leaving more questions than answers. Over the years, the audio has fueled countless theories, debates, and speculations online. Yet to this day, there remains no clear explanation as to what happened that night. What makes this case especially troubling is that law enforcement initially hesitated to take it seriously. Due to outstanding warrants Brandon had at the time, police assumed he had voluntarily disappeared to avoid arrest and didn't prioritize the case, expecting him to resurface eventually. But he never did. His family, however, firmly believes that Brandon would never abandon his 4 children, and they have consistently rejected the idea that he fled on purpose. To many, the lack of urgency in the police response felt like the case was quietly pushed aside, and that sense of neglect only deepened the mystery. Listening to the desperation in Brandon's voice during that 911 call, it becomes painfully clear that he believed he was in danger. And what makes it even more unsettling is the strong impression that he wasn't alone during that final call. Being stranded in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night, just 40 miles from home, with fear creeping into his every word. It leaves you wondering not just what happened, but how something like this could go unresolved for so long, with no solid answers and no closure for the people who knew and loved him. But there are more mysteries lurking in the dark. John Lang Fresno Police. On March 20th, 2015, a short video quietly appeared on YouTube on a channel called Lang Marine. The clip lasted just over 3 minutes and showed what, at first glance, looked like nothing more than a pickup truck driving past a house. Then, less than 3 minutes later, the same truck passed again. There was no confrontation, no sirens, no visible interaction, just repetition. But according to the man who uploaded the footage, that repetition was the point. The uploader was John Lang, a 51-year-old former Marine living alone in Fresno, California. The footage came from a security camera he had installed outside his home. In the video's description, Lang claimed the truck belonged either to the Fresno Police Department or the Sheriff's Office, and that it was part of an ongoing campaign of harassment against him. He believed this surveillance began after he publicly criticized how the city of Fresno, along with its police and fire departments, managed their budgets online. In Lang's mind, the message was clear. He had become a problem, and now he was being watched. The video didn't go viral, but among the small group of viewers who did find it, reactions were mixed. Some dismissed it as paranoia. Others weren't so quick to do that. One comment in particular stood out, not because it proved anything, but because it echoed a wider distrust of local law enforcement. "I mean, my friend's dad was FPD for decades, and JD showed up with some officers and threatened him back in the late 90s, so it wouldn't surprise me if cops were intimidating this dude. Not sure I believe they killed him." It was just an anecdote, not evidence, but it reinforced Lang's belief that intimidation by police wasn't unheard of, and that his fears weren't entirely irrational. The very next day, Lang uploaded another video. This time, the footage showed a man walking his dog past Lang's house. The man paused briefly near the edge of the property, then continued down the street. To most people, it looked completely ordinary, but Lang saw something else. He claimed the man was a plainclothes police officer deliberately allowing the dog to approach his home, allegedly to condition the animal so it wouldn't react if that same officer later entered the house. Over the next 10 months, Lang continued posting similar clips. A man in civilian clothing approaching the house and leaving without explanation. A police vehicle slowing down, stopping briefly, then driving away. Each individual video showed something ambiguous, but taken together, Lang believed they formed a clear pattern of surveillance. One upload unsettled viewers more than the rest. It showed a black van pulling up outside Lang's home. Someone inside appeared to point a large device toward the house for several seconds before the van drove away. Lang insisted the device was a thermal imaging sensor and that the occupants were checking whether he was inside. To him, this wasn't observation anymore. It was preparation. By January 2016, Lang was no longer speculating. He was convinced something was about to happen. On January 16th, he uploaded what would become his final video. It showed a cleaning company van parked near his home, an unremarkable scene on its own. But the message Lang attached to the video was chilling. In the description, he wrote, "If I turn up missing or dead tomorrow, remember this van. I think I seen a couple of guys sneak out the side door and into the building when it was parked in the carport this afternoon. I've been causing the city of Fresno a lot of problems recently, which I now regret." Just days later, firefighters responding to a blaze discovered John Lang dead inside his burning home. He had suffered multiple stab wounds. For those who had followed his channel, the news was shocking and deeply unsettling. Almost immediately, early reports circulated claiming Lang had been stabbed in the upper back. If true, it would align disturbingly well with everything he had feared. But then the official narrative shifted. When the coroner's report was released, it stated that Lang had suffered 3 stab wounds, all to the chest, and that they were self-inflicted. There was no mention of wounds to his back. The discrepancy triggered backlash online. Was the original report wrong? Or had details quietly changed? A petition calling for the case to be reopened began circulating, but authorities declined. The case remained closed. As more details emerged, an alternative explanation began to take shape. Many of the incidents Lang recorded could be explained by coincidence or misinterpretation. The man walking his dog appeared to be doing exactly that. The supposed thermal imaging device resembled a standard camera mounted on a gimbal, the kind often used by independent filmmakers. Filming from a vehicle could indicate nothing more than a lack of proper permits. The most troubling detail came from inside the house itself. Investigators found that all entrances had been barricaded from the inside. There were no signs of forced entry. Lang had also disabled his indoor cameras the day before the fire. The final saved footage showed him sitting alone, holding a kitchen knife. In the end, authorities ruled John Lang's death a suicide. And yet, years later, the case continues to circulate online. Not because there is clear proof of a conspiracy, but because of how closely Lang's fears appeared to mirror his final moments. Whether he was genuinely being harassed, or whether paranoia slowly consumed him until ordinary events became threats, remains unresolved. What's left behind is a digital trail that feels less like evidence, and more like a warning about how thin the line can be between suspicion and certainty. That's all for today, folks. If you want to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.